Now you want to straighten this wire because it's rolled like in a coil, and sometimes the surface will not be completely like flat. So you want, like, this is a square wire, so you want each side to kind of stack nicely next to the other wire so it's easier to bind them. Again, gentle pressure, not too much. You don't want to damage the wire, kink it, or damage the enameling that's on the wire. And you can just mold it very gently with your hands to make sure that they sit flat next to each other. So this is what they should just sit nice and flat. And the reason I'm using just 3 wires is that this particular cabochon, as you can see, is very slim. It doesn't need a lot of wires. If you were, say, working with a slightly thicker cabochon, you want to go with 4. And if it's a higher dome, you may even need 5 or 6 wires, depending again on the size and the thickness of your stone. What we are going to do next is we're going to use a little bit of painter's tape. You don't need a whole lot, just a couple of small pieces. Let me just adjust this a bit so it's in the camera. You just need a couple of pieces. And what we're going to do is we're going to stack these wires nice and flat next to each other. And we're going to go to one end, take this. You don't have to push down really hard on it, just very gently, because you're going to be taking it off later and you don't want a lot of a sticky mess at that end. Again, like, work your way gently, flattening it as you go to the other end. And again, closer to the end so that it's not going to interfere with your wrapping. You just fold it over very lightly. Come back to where, find roughly the center of your wire stack. And what we're going to do is we need about, you can work off of the spool with this one, but for the purposes of this, we will cut off about maybe 3.5 inches of your half round wire. And this side, now this is a flush cutter, so you will see one side is kind of flush, the other one is beveled. You need a flush cut on this side, so you are going to cut with the flat end on this side. Make it a habit always to either hold the end of the wire, or if it's close to the end or the tip, you need to put your finger in front of it or hold the wire down so it doesn't go flying all over the place. It's not going to be very nice to have sharp bits of wire all over the place over your table or your carpet. So you just gently cut that and put away your remaining wire. Again, this is really easy to mold with your hand. You can just do it with a finger or you can use your flush cutter. Now what you're going to do here is create a little bit of a bend. So about maybe an inch of a tail is what you give yourself, maybe a little bit less than an inch. And you kind of make like a little bend like this, sort of either to the left or right, whichever way your hand is oriented. Come back to your your frame wires, and you're going to start binding. So you're roughly in the middle of the wire. Hold them as flat together as possible. Hold on to your tail and up with a gentle pressure. Not too much. You don't want the wires to fold in on themselves. You can gently tap, tap, so it's kind of tight. At this point, it's still going to move a little bit, so that's okay. Again, put your finger right over the edge. Bring it straight down. Your flat edge of the half round wire is against your frame wires. Bring it down. Again, gentle pressure. You don't want any bubbling, so you don't want the wire to sit up and sit above that and create a bubble or an uneven wrap. Again, gentle pressure. Pull it up, bring it down and around. Press it down with your hand. For this, you can, again, either use your flat nose, your chain nose, or just your nylon jaw pliers, gentle tapping. Just make sure they're as close together and as even as possible. And you just continue this binding. You can hold on to your tail because at this point it still will move a little bit. Now, one of the reasons why I said that it's usually nice to work off of a spool or a longer length of wire is because it depends on how much of this binding you really need. The fatter your teardrop or your cabochon, the more you will need. The slimmer it is, the less of this you will need. So you go around as much as you can. Tap it down gently so it's flat. Now you see this wire has end on this side. Now we're going to use the rest of this tail because what we want is we want enough of that binding to take us to just where the cabochon starts to widen. So we need about this length. So a few more wraps is what we need. And you bring this down. Again, you use it. You don't need to waste the wire. Just bring it around, making sure that both your wires end on the same side. Now, since this is just a little bit wider than the binding, we're going to go in there, like put your finger there. It won't cut your finger, the beveled edge, there's enough room for your finger. So just very gently, just the tip of it, cut it, let your scrap go, tap, 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 just to flatten the wire. Come over to this edge. We want this wire also to end on the same side. So again, your beveled edge, put your finger there, get rid of your scrap wire, tap it down. So there you have it. That would be the inside of your binding. And on the other side, it's again nice and flat and tap down. And on this side, you won't have any pokey bits, and neither will you on this side with your flush cut. What you want to start doing now is just make sure that you have enough. I'm going to just angle this a little bit so it's easier to see this bit. So you see how just where the stone starts to flare out at the bottom, that's how much of a binding you have. You're going to start gently. Make sure your cut bits are on the inside when you're doing this. The outer edge should have no ends of the round wire. Just round it gently and then put it up against your stone and gently shape this to the shape of a stone. So there you have your stone where you need it, and then you shape it roughly to where it needs to go. So you get to the edge over here. When you get to the point, I'm sorry, just get my finger out of the way. Maybe move the camera a little bit. All right, so let's do this again. So you get where you get to the edge, you just turn it outwards a little bit. Other end, you get to the top, and just as you get to the tip, you bend it out a little bit. All right. So let's get this out of the way for a minute. Now, just make sure your stack is right next to each other when you get right up here. So shape it gently. Make sure it still fits that cabochon. Give yourself just a little bit of room on the top, not too much. Just a little bit of room, so when you need space to tuck in the wires, they'll go. So it fits the cabochon. Your setting is good. Let's just move this around a little bit. It's still not fixed yet. We're going to get to that in a second. Again, just make sure your stack is all nice and even, that the wires aren't overlapping each other. Just shape it as you go. And then as you see, you have 3 wires on this side and 3 on the other side. You're going to lay them flat so that they're one on top of the other, like that. Now you're going to use the remaining part of your half round wire, and again you're going to give yourself a bit of a tail. So the flat side is on the inside. You bend it slightly, just shape it so it's slightly off at an angle. What that does is it gives you this edge. It just makes it a bit flatter to work with. I better adjust this camera before it goes flying again. All right, now what you do is you lay these ends one on top of the other. So this stack, which is again, it's attached there, you don't have to worry, it's not going anywhere, and this stack as flat as possible. Don't start just right here at the edge, start a little bit over, and then you wrap around that stack once, just the way you did before, except you have a double stack over here. So you have 3 wires on top of the other, you have 6. So come down again, hold on to your tail just to give you a little bit of point to hold on to while you wrap these carefully. Now these will be slightly more rounded and not flat, and that's okay. So when you have about 5 wraps, you can tighten out that last one. Sorry, just off camera over there. Tighten up that last one over there. Hold on to your tail. Okay, and we will go gently tap these, flatten them together. That's all we need over there. What we are going to do now is take these, take the tape off the edges, just gently so you don't leave a lot of residue over there. And that's why you want like some good painter's tape, so you don't leave a lot of sticky mess over there. All right, now when you take the 2 wires that are sort of this stack over here, the ones that are to the complete end, one on each side, just take them both and bend them backward a bit, and the others just bend sideways so they're out of the way. You continue with this long binding wire that you have, your half round wire, and come around. When you're coming around, just make sure to keep straightening the wire gently with your fingertips, your nail, and there you go. The flat edge still has to be against these 2, and you're just gently coiling these around. We are creating the bail at this point, or at least we'll start creating the bail. You come around it, you coil them just the way we did the binding wraps in the beginning. Just because it's 2 wires, it's going to be a little bit slimmer and more rounded than it would be on the other wires. Again, you're holding on to the tail on this end, and just keep the tension even. You can always go back and unwrap it if you feel you've lost your space a bit, or if the wire tends to twist around. It's okay if you have a little bit of space there. We're just going to smush them down, get them all together. So as you're coiling, you have enough of it. Hold this and just gently push them down. So there, it's a tight coil. So as you're coiling, if you don't get too tight, too close in the beginning, that's okay. You can just curl these around and then come down to it, push it down. All right. Again, push them down gently so they're tighter together. You can use your pliers to do that. You can just use your pliers to push them down gently. The end that you have there, just turn it around. Just use your chain nose pliers to tuck it in and flatten it. Okay, now leave this for a bit. This is going to be at the back of your stone, so this part is your front. What you want to do, just make sure again that your stone is sitting well. It's good. What we're going to do is create a seat for the stone. So this is the back side. You gently just separate the back part of the frame on both sides, just like that. Okay, so it's raised slightly. What you're going to do is you're going to go in with your chain nose pliers. You're going to grip right at the edge of where you finished your binding, and you're going to twist it inside. So you put a little kink or shape in the wire like this. You're going to go back to the other side. Again, you've separated it. Get right to the edge of where you finished your wrapping. Hold your frame so you're not kinking the other wires, and bend it inwards at about the same angle on both sides. So this is what you have. Now you'll go back to the front of the stone. You have your cabochon. What you have here is you have a seat for that stone. Okay, we're going to just bend these, make them a little bit tighter here. Now you're going to do the exact same thing with the front of it. You're going to separate that front wire over the face of the cabochon, and the same thing here. Okay, the middle wire will stay against the edge of the cabochon. Again, you'll go in right to the edge and turn it in slightly. So you put that, the cabochon is secure on the front. Go into this side and again put that kink in at about the same angle, and you can adjust that. You can flatten that too. Take your chain nose pliers and the top of it, just flatten it. All right, now we're going to go the tail that we left ourselves. We're going to just go around a few times till we use up that wire, and also tighten the frame a bit. And you get to the end over here, we're going to gently curl it and tuck it in. Tap it in, that way it's not going to be poking out, and your bail is secure on that side. All right, now the part that you've wrapped, you're going to gently start turning it inwards right here. You can use your round nose pliers for this. You could set it right there and help it kind of come down. But like I said, these wires are half round. They are pretty good. It's soft enough that you can mold them yourselves. You can use a dowel, but you don't necessarily need to. And we're going to just, now I have finished this just a little bit. We can always go down like with more wire. Your kits have more wire than this. I chose to end it here because I'm going to use this part of it in part of the designing. We can always have the bail. Like if you wanted a longer bail, you would just wrap more of it to come down to the front, and then you would have this nice little wrapped design over here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to separate these two just slightly and then stack them back together so they kind of sit right there. Now there's a few different ways you can go with this. Basically, when you get to this part of it, you can let your imagination go You can have them curling around. You can have a whimsical, sort of chaotic, unique design of your own. You can put in some elegance. You can have it swoop down, curl down. Once you get here, really, you let your imagination take over. What we are going to do here is we're going to add some texture by twisting some of these wires. We are going to twist the ends of these two wires that are coming down from the bail. You use your pin vise, open up just the tip, put it through here, and then it's better you just set this down and just tighten it right there. What you want to do is, just so you're not twisting up these wires too much, hold this edge here with your pliers, and now since this is tight and the wire isn't going to come out, you just start turning this. So as you can see now with the square wires, when you twist them, you give it sort of diamond cut effect. It catches the light more, it sparkles more. We're going to set that down and twist it to open that. Get your wires out gently. The other one here, go in here and going to twist that tight. When it's tightly twisted, again go up to the edge here, hold that down because you don't want it to start turning on itself, and again twist. You can twist in the same direction or in the opposite direction, it's up to you. About the same number of times, so you have an even amount of, it doesn't look like one is twisted less than the other, it's about the same here. So we're going to go loosen it a bit, unscrew that, get your wires out. Okay, so those are your center wires. We're going to leave those